Welcome to Terra Confluence 2024 and in the Terra Torrents a dialogue series. Today, we are delighted to welcome Dr. Gulab Chand, who's an assistant professor at Manipal University, Jaipur, to our event, a part of the Global Climate Association initiative. Dr. Chand holds a PhD in humanities and social sciences and is an expert in linguistics with a keen focus on applied linguistics, language learning, and teaching. His academic journey and professional expertise span a broad spectrum, including foreign language learning, phonetics, phonology, and sociolinguistics, making him an ideal voice to explore the intersection of language with environment and climate issues. Through his work, Dr. Chand has developed into the nuances of how language shapes and is shaped by our interactions with the environment, offering valuable insights into the role of communication in understanding and addressing environmental challenges. Join us as Dr. Chand brings us his interdisciplinary approach to our discussions, enriching our understanding of the critical role of language in the discourse of climate change and environmental sustainability. I welcome you to our program today, Dr.
Thank
Chand.
you. Thank you, Dr. Chakravarti.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this talk. And this is a very interesting nexus to talk about languages and climate change and sustainability. So, today we have a few questions for you, which we would like you to discuss on. The first of them being, which is language's role in climate communication. How do linguistic studies enhance our understanding and communication of climate change issues? Could you throw some light on this topic?
Yeah, sure. Basically, linguistic studies plays crucial role in climate change and communication. Climate change communication by helping us understand how language shapes perceptions, attitude, and behaviors towards environmental issues by examining how different linguistic strategies and framing techniques influence public discourse. uh, Researchers can develop more effective communication strategies to convey the urgency and the complexities of climate change. This includes, analyzing the use of metaphors, narratives, rhetoricals, devices in climate communication to tailor messages that resonate with diverse audiences and motivate actions. Additionally, linguistic studies can uncover the cultural, social, and political factors that shape language use around climate change, informing efforts to bridge communication gaps and foster collaboration across communities. So basically, the linguistic is you can say that everything is dependent on the linguistics. Whatever we communicate, whatever we transfer, whatever the information we um, transfer from one generation to another generations or day to daily life, it is because of the linguistics. If language is not there, so it would be very difficult. Just imagine if you are not able to speak, what would happen? Would you be able to express your thoughts? Would you be able to convey your surroundings to others? So linguistic plays a very crucial role in climate change communication as well as in other disciplines.
True. So when you said that, it just brought to my mind how important language is, language, linguistics, a particular type of languages. So even vernaculars in dissemination of information, which we take it for granted actually. So when you so thoughtfully gave the exact ways that it is used, which is that just opened my mind and is also something that is relatable to our discussion I was having in the series earlier with a naturalist who work with conservation. And she also brought that importance of being able to convey the message in local languages in the same way to the communities, so that they can relate to us on that level, and also bring that ideas forward and relay it to the next people who can take action. And that is something which is very interesting, and I would like to talk more on that. But I would like to go forward with the next question that we have is, in what ways can indigenous languages contribute to climate resilience and adaptation strategies? I say this because Dr. Chand himself is a speaker of a language known as Hadoti, which is very rare language spoken in western part of India, especially in the states of Rajasthan. So if you could explain a little bit, how can these indigenous languages and metaphors and idioms help to contribute climate resilience? I talk it as I say want to talk about this because I am someone who's also researching on something similar and would
Yeah.
like your views on this.
Indigenous languages can contribute significantly to climate resilience and adaptation strategies. In many ways, the one can be, traditional eco ecological knowledge preservation, right? So, by what does it mean that whatever if we go in the uh, you know in 19th or 18th century, right? So the technology was not there. So how we used to understand our surroundings, our environment, or our climate. So there are some metaphors, some narratives, some idioms, some phrases, right? Like we you what how do we let me give you one example. It is very popular in Rajasthan, basically in in the area where my mother tongue is spoken, like Kota Bundi, Barajalawar. Uh, like all of a sudden the rain comes, right? In and the sun is there, and
Hmm.
rain it is raining. So we call that सोळ्या का विवाह हो रहा है, मतलब like there's a marriage going on of some animal. So it
Hmm.
is not natural. It is not natural, but it is because of some animals are getting married, and because of that, this rain is falling. So that kind of idioms, or maybe you can call the narratives, are very important nowadays. And still, though we always try to preserve each and every single thing, whatever it comes to it comes to our civilization, we always try to preserve, but we are very you know we do not give the weightage to language.
Hmm.
So whatever the knowledge our ancestors have, we do not follow them so far because we are completely dependent on the technology nowadays. But yeah, keeping, because technology does not have all the answers.
True.
Right. So a traditional ecological knowledge is something which uh, I can say, like somebody is getting married, the human beings are getting married, and all of a sudden the rain comes. So we always say कि कढ़ाई में से खाया होगा इसने, right? So this kind of technological, and it is somehow in some communities you can say that it can be a fun, or it can, or we just console ourselves by saying these kind of phrases that okay, fine, ठीक है, कुछ गलती की होगी, then it happened. So traditional ecological knowledge preservation is very important. Then second ways is community engagement and participation, that is very important for for climate change or resilience and adaptation strategies. So, in which how community performs, or how communal practices are taking part for discussion. Because if you see nowadays, most of the parents do not want their children to speak at home or at school or at workplace in their mother tongue. Right. They do not want them. They want either Hindi or some standard language, like maybe English or maybe some other foreign languages, or maybe the languages which comes under the constitution or ed schedule languages, right? But we do not encourage our upcoming generation to talk in uh, in indigenous languages, and that is very if you see that the how climate change communication can be preserved or can be transferred to one generation to another generation, that is the best way is using the indigenous language, right? The third one is localized communication in and education, right? If you are not incorporating or if you are not including your mother tongue or the language which you use for daily uh, purposes, that that can be added in the curriculum, and it should be taught somewhere so that we can preserve the language and the culture and the climate, because language is the mean or tool to express every single bit of knowledge to others. Right. So localized communication and education is also important to the climate uh, resilience. And
Yeah.
then cultural resilience and adaptation. That, as I gave you the example for that how we console ourselves when something we are not expecting, but it is happening over there. So sometimes we make fun, or sometimes we use such kind of phrases which which helps us to bear the that uh, all of a sudden problem or occurred. Um,
Actually, yeah, I would like to weigh in on this that the phrase that you said that there's some animals getting married. Even we are residing in eastern part of the country. I speak a language that is Bangla, very rarely spoken in other parts of the world, but a big major community in eastern India speaks the language Bangla, and we also have the same idiom in Bangla where we say শেয়াল কুকুরের বিয়ে হচ্ছে if
yeah,
there
that
is
is
a
Fial, and
environment. Yeah,
yeah, we call
শেয়াল is a
Swala.
and kukur is a dog, so interspecies marriage might be happening. Why? Because there is a phenomena in the environment where there is a rain occurring, and also there is a um, sun is also present in the horizon, but there's the rain event is also happening to make it more relatable. And you said some very fair point about indigenous languages to be conserved and a need to do so because idioms like this, but there are something more attached to them, especially to the communities of Rajasthan, to the Native American communities, where the knowledges of the past have been shared through storytelling, as they say, or oration, part of oration. And what the oration include is how perhaps hundreds or maybe thousands of years ago there was a climate disaster, there was environmental disaster, or maybe a war, something unrelated to the environment, and how those communities survived. And those stories are brought down generation after generation in terms of orations or songs perhaps. And I had the fortune to listen to one of the dialogues of a lady who works with the Native American community, who um, for environmental conservation purposes, and she brought front these stories that how the Native American communities and other indigenous communities across the world through their languages have preserved those stories of maybe the geographical location of their area, what sort of biodiversity lives, and which is very scientific in nature, and you cannot say it is not. And those knowledges needs to be preserved by the strategies that you mentioned, that there has to be a different level of strategy to preserve the knowledge that we have so it is not lost to the next generation.
Yeah, actually, in Indian context or Indian scenario, it happens because, as I said, that there was a survey, SIL 2012. Uh, it mentions that most of the indigenous languages are not being preserved because of the community. The community they feel ashamed, or they feel shy to speak their mother tongue in front of the group of people. So yes, preservation is very important, if we do not preserve our language, then we won't be able to preserve our culture, right? And language and culture both are the supplement of each other. So and when your language dies, your everything dies, your identity dies. Basically it happens because the language is your identity, that you belong to such and such place or such and such state. So language preservation is very very important. And though CIL Mysore is, they are trying their best to preserve most of the Indian languages, but still languages are dying.
And we need to work for it, like the
Yeah.
environment and climate.
And
So
though
perhaps
my language is
maybe
endangered, on the work I did on Hadoti. Hadoti itself is an endangered language, and it is going to be, if we do not preserve it, we do not document it, very soon, within 5 to 10 years, that language will not be there. I think so. So that was the one of the reasons to choose for the PhD work.
oh. So we hope that you continue your research in the
Yeah, we are working
Linguistic
on.
language too.
Yeah.
Yes, and we hope to do something as a collaboration to bring this language to the forefront and extract the knowledge which is there
Yeah,
in each
me
of our
and
individuals.
some of my collaborators are working together, and then hopefully let's see what happens in future. But yeah, we are very hopeful that we'll be doing some good work for document them and to preserve the culture and their identity, and planning. Let's hope for the best.
We wish you all the best in your
Thank you.
endeavor. And then moving forward, I would like to ask you, is climate change or maybe environmental issues, can is that a cause or is it posing a threat to the survival of certain languages? Because that has been a case across the world, especially South American nations and many places, and especially those spoken by communities in vulnerable ecosystem. Do you think that climate change and environmental impact is
Yes, yes, definitely. The best example, Polumi, we can take, some part of the Northeast where the landslides happen. So, uh, I forgot the one village name in Arunachal Pradesh. It is very near to China border. Uh, Let me recall that name. I forgot the name. Actually, I was reading a guy's story. He had been um, out since 2013, and in last 10 years he never visited his parents because of the climate change, like the landsliding and something is heavy snowfall and so many things happens. So because of that he just came out and he never went back there. And now he feels that I'm just losing my language, my mother tongue, because he does not have that community, or he does not have that basically what it calls. He does not have any communicators, because most of the time he's just communicating in either Mumbai language or maybe English or whatever the language he uses. But he does not find, except his parents, he does not find much. So his tone, his vocabulary, his lexical items, his syntax, language syntax are he's somehow changing because of the language contact. So yes, climate change are really the major reason, could be the major reason. Now if we see the war, Russia-Ukraine war, so the migrants, the Ukraine migrants, they've been in a different part of the world. And if you see over there, some of them were not able to speak English, the global language. Now they are surviving, and there will be, it's very hard to relocate themselves again in Ukraine. So they are just learning, and they are just losing their,
at stake?
exact language, whatever they have.
So what you say is because of globalization or maybe wars, climate stresses, environmental stresses, and so much more, migration due to
Yeah.
not just climate disasters,
Yeah,
other
some
effects are,
you can add one more socio-political
yeah,
reasons, like or maybe economical reasons. There are multiple reasons which can affect the indigenous languages.
True. So this is leading to a more universal sort of common lingo among the entire globe, and then we are losing our unique touches. You can say that.
Yeah,
That is an interesting way to put it. Thank you for sharing that
yeah.
information. Now, moving forward, I would like to ask you, how can language teaching and learning be leveraged to raise environmental awareness and foster sustainable practices? I ask you this because I'm a climate and environmental educator, and how can I use language as an educator to incorporate the teachings?
Basically, education can leverage other. What was your question? I just can you repeat it again?
Yes,
Sorry.
most definitely I can. How can language teaching
Yeah.
and learning be leveraged to raise environmental awareness and foster sustainable practices? Like you said, you want your local schools or local people to teach those indigenous languages. But how can these learnings be utilized for environmental awareness purposes, or perhaps transcending the stories from our forefathers to our next generations? Do you think a value of language?
Yeah, true, true. Basic, there are some, some points which one has to keep in mind for, you know, for protecting or for preserving or documenting the language. So, language learning and language teaching be leveraged to raise environmental awareness in a several ways, which I would like to say. The first one is, integration of the environmental content in language and learning.
Hmm.
Right? When we are let's suppose we are learning a second language, or maybe third language, whatever, or foreign language, so we start learning about basic things. But when we are beginner, when we go on the what it calls intermediate level, then when we are just discussing in that language, we should give them topics related to environmental science or related to environment, and let them discuss or debate or group discussion. That can be one of the part. And the at the beginner or primary level, you can use some we can integrate some environmental contents like birds. When like the best example is tsunami came, then all the birds flew from there to other place, because they were aware about ki something is happening, because they can listen it. So those kind of stories can be incorporated at the primary level. That can be very helpful. Second thing, we can say language and language teaching and learning, we can use project based learning, where we can students or teachers, they can start working on some projects for a teacher can assess them, their abilities for their comprehension and their creativity or their generation of the content. That can be very, very helpful. And these projects should be in the collaborative way, because every human being has a different thinking process, and they might have a different knowledge about the climate. They have an extra knowledge, or may not have an extra knowledge. So this collaboration can be very, very helpful to aware um, grow the awareness, or to bring the awareness among the participants. Third point, we can use the multimodal resources, where multimodal means like using the multi-dimensional things like the video, stories, or maybe some pictures, some narration, some audio stories. So could be, the multimodal resources can be very, very helpful for making someone aware about the climate through language learning and teaching. Um, Cultural relevant material is one of the major aspect which we are talking about, since beginning, that what the phrase which I used, right? If I'm just trying to teach language, any language to my community. So I will be trying to incorporate or trying to use such examples which is very common among them, right?
True.
So that they will be able to, they will be able to understand well, correlate well. They would be able to correlate the scenario, the
Hmm.
existing phrase and then scenario. So their understanding will be for long lasting. So that could be one, and some other stories which was maybe the imagination or maybe the reality. But it happens like, in India, every year we see the flood is there. So what kind of actions the villagers or the place where the flood came, they took,
Hmm.
their narrations are very, very important to
Hmm.
use during the language learning and uh, teaching, because the strategies next year, what this year, what they were not ready for, next year what strategies they use to survive betterly. So these strategies can be or the examples can be used in it. Another point, we can use experiential learning opportunities where the simulators can be used, right? Or
Simulators.
yeah, and we can ask them to uh, find out the cases and just try to get their narrations and translate into another language which is your target language. So that can be a very, very important. And critical, the last but not the least, the critical language awareness is also important, where it says that how your language is shaping your perceptions. As I said, the first example, like if I'll be teaching another language to someone, then I will be using some examples from the source language so that
True.
they can understand a target language better. Right. So, but I will not be using all the examples from the source language. If I'll be using, then they won't able to find out any differences
That is
in their
correct.
learning. So they'll be just thinking their way. But if I'll be using some language, some examples from their language, some example from another language, some example from a third language. So by those examples, there will be, that your language shapes your perception, which I said, right? So different examples can be very helpful. Language examples can be very helpful to shape their perceptions, values, and attitudes towards the environment, right? Because now, as let me tell you one example which I myself, you know, recently experienced. September 2022, I been to Lithuania when uh, Ukraine-Russia war is going on, right? So they were facing the energy crisis because of the gas or gasoline. Russia is not, delivering the gasoline and all. During that period, whatever the hotel you take, though it is the Airbnb or maybe seven-star hotel, they do not have the thermostat system on,
Hmm.
and you will be feeling cold over there.
Hmm.
And because those that, and people were just discussing on their dining table or maybe in a food table or breakfast, okay, it's not too cold. So because of that listening myself, I came to know, okay, this is not too cold. So the language itself, changes your psychology, your perception, your attitudes towards the environment.
That
And it
is very
happens if
true.
if right now I'm sitting in my cabin and I say, oh, I'm feeling cold. So definitely you'll just have some kind of, what it calls,
Mental perception, yes.
goosebumps or something like that. So it happens. So, languages are very important to change the other's perception.
These are like languages, as you said, are very powerful tools, especially storytelling and narrations. And the way we use it is also very important. Because
Yeah.
when you said that we have to use those languages in those contexts, making it more localized and culturally relevant. So we do the same for maybe a climate research. So the climate research for an entire globe will not work on a local, say a city scale. So we go into micro levels, microclimate. We look into the microclimate. So we also along with the climate and environment, we also need to look into the niche of the languages that are present there to make the information that we are sharing that may be relevant to climate, environment, anything more close to or a synergy with the people that are on the receiving end. With that, I move on to the next question for you. Uh, Now, this is something about linguistics and policy making. What role can linguistics play in shaping environmental policies to be more effective and inclusive? And do you think is if there is a role for linguistics to play there?
Yeah, definitely. In uh, uh, every aspect or in every context, linguistics is, as I said, that um, it makes you different.
True.
Language makes you different from other species, right? It is very famous said by Chomsky. So linguistics play a crucial role in every discipline or in every context or in every aspect of the human being of the society. Yes, policy making. Why do we make the policy? For betterment of the society, betterment of the things, right? And if you are using such kind of language which is not understandable to others, then
Hmm.
what is the use of making that policy? So
That
your
question
policy,
just made
yeah,
me feel stupid that why did I ask that? Because it has actually the two policies to be written down, it has to be in language. To be said out aloud, the language is
yeah.
used. But
Your
the
policy is a
context,
kind
yeah.
policy is a document, written document,
Hmm.
right,
True.
which can be referred in future and whenever it is required. So and when you are making a policy, that policy the component of the policy should be very simple and concise so that a layman can understand.
True.
And the policy should be in the indigenous languages as well, because everybody is not aware about the Hindi and English, right?
Yes, yes.
So policy, linguistic plays crucial role, though we are not using it properly. But if we use it, then no need to make anybody to understand verbally. Ki, don't do this and don't do this.
I have a like a add-on question to that, but to make it more like relevant to our talk. That do you think that there are? I'm pretty sure there are already policies existing on that. So do you think like for the we have policies for make preservation of the environment, for the preservation of the climate. Now we have a new one for as a adverse impact against climate change to be a fundamental right, freedom from adverse impact from climate change. So culture, there's a term which is very much discussed about around the globe recently because we are also working on that cultural survival. To have the freedom to have your own culture to survive, the languages to speak, and also, do you think that like maybe Haroti, your own language is not under that protection, so it might go away. But if there are policies involved where you need to protect your these languages that are disappearing under a policy, under some schemes, under some outreach campaigns where it is made more popularized within not just within your community who speaks that but other, would that sort of policies be helpful in general in creating more sustainably inclusive, environmental friendly, and because environment encompasses everything including the language societies.
Yeah. Uh, uh, as I said earlier, that language is if language is there, then culture is there.
True.
And you always make your society based on your culture, your surrounding based on your culture, right? So if you are, you are just preserving your language, then you are preserving your culture. And when you preserve your culture, you are preserving your society, your surrounding. So maybe in some societies, some kind of trees are not allowed. Maybe it's a taboo, right? It may be like in the best example of Rajasthan people, the Bishnoi community, they worship the trees, right?
Hmm.
I believe everybody has read that story. So, the uh, uh,
Please explain. I would like you to explain
yeah,
that.
actually, there was a story. It is not a story; it's a real story, real incident. Vishnoi community comes from the Jodhpur, Jaisalmer, Badmer, the Marwad area, and they worship two things: black deer, right, and the tree, khejdi. The tree name is khejdi, right? So once people, that time, the earlier time, the people were, trying to cut those trees, and they cut those trees, and they want to plant something, or they want to make something. So every Bishnoi community people just hug the trees, single trees, and they said, if you want to cut the trees, first you have to cut us, right? So it is because they believe that their community, their god is tree. The khezdi itself is the tree, a tree. The tree name is khezdi, and that tree itself is a god for them.
Hmm.
So then, because of their culture, their understanding, their forefathers telling narrations, stories, made them aware to protect those trees. Though it is not a kind of tree which gives you, shelter or something. It's a kind of bushes type, right? But big bushes. Uh, but they preserve it.
Hmm.
They preserve it.
So that is very interesting that you said that, because this is what are the crux of the matter, so as to say, to preserve that knowledge of preserving those trees which has been passed down of our forefathers.
Yeah.
We, or maybe the Western sciences, might not know the importance of those trees, those biodiversity, whatever they were saving, but they have that in within them. They have that knowledge to preserve that, and that might be related to some environmental causes, that if we remove that tree, something bad would happen to the environment, some sort of environmental stresses, or climatic issues, or maybe some disruption within the community, such as soil erosion, something simple as that. So this is why it is important to have those sort of communities where the knowledge exists, and it is passed down through the generations with a common languages and this says narration, the narratives has to pass down. So that
Yeah,
was
one more thing I want to add, follow me over here. Like in Rajasthan, I do not know about other states, but in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, there are some old water bodies, right? Humanly made by, um, um, you know, kings and their people to preserve the water, right? So now those water bodies are not that much, they do not have water in that, but we are just trying to preserve those heritage or those monuments. uh, how do we save them? Because the population is growing day by day, and we do not have that land, so everybody wants some part of the land to survive or to stay. But there's a one good example about it, that people, the forefathers, they saved it based on the linguistic capabilities. They use the linguistics or language such a way, so they made a story and they create some fear. Okay, you go there, if you destroy this water body, you will face something. So
true.
though maybe the god would be there, I'm not denying that fact, but not everywhere in every water bodies. But yes, that linguistics or the wittiness,
Hmm.
if I say that, the how they used to save it. And now there are some examples in Rajasthan which are people are aware about those water bodies, and every time they go and they try to clean it, but they do not destroying it, and they are trying to renovate it because of those stories.
Stories that are present. Yes.
Yeah, so linguistics played a crucial role to save our monuments and heritage.
That is absolutely correct, because especially even in case of, you must have heard of the term sacred groves. So sacred groves are areas of forests in even northeastern India and South India. So these tribes of ancient India, they are protecting those forests which have more medicinal value or some purpose,
That's
and
true.
they have a local gods, like local
Yeah,
statuettes or
local, yeah,
idols to protect
folk
those
gods
areas, and they say if you do something, something bad will happen.
will happen.
Maybe someone who's outside the community will not adhere to those rules, but the
But yes,
people
the
living
community
there
itself.
will, yes, the people themselves will protect the place at all costs. So that is
So
actually
so
very well.
every community has a different way to preserve the environment.
True.
But yeah, every community has a different way to preserve it. Every community has uh, their own terms and conditions how they want it. Right. As I said that there are some communities they might not like neem tree because it is taboo in their culture, but they grow some or they grow some apple trees, some mango trees. So they also want that greenery over there, and they want their society to be sustainable and disease free. So environment is important, but yes, linguistics is also important, and then cultural and communities are playing crucial role to preserve it.
So I think I'll say that linguistic is the vessel or a conduit
Yeah,
on the shoulder. The entire information that may be related to anything
yeah.
is carried over the generation. So that has a very important role to play. Thank you for opening my eyes to this. I mean, like to this broader concept, which we usually forget that has a role actually. So moving on to the um, some of the last few questions that I have for you is how important is it to incorporate diverse linguistics and cultural perspective in the global discourse on climate change? And I do not speak it in a micro, maybe a regional level, but on broad global context. Do you think there is a space for bringing together languages all over the world to bring in those shared knowledges that these ancient communities, ancient languages, endangered languages have?
Uh, I recently I was listening a talk, and one of the professors came from USA, and he was talking about that in some place. He was from that Jaisalmer Jodhpur side, so he was talking about that Khezadi wala. So there is some place in USA, so people call them that tree saver
Hmm.
because he belongs to that community. So I would say ki, such kind of stories in a different languages which can be translated in every languages and can be given to read or can be given to hear by narration or maybe some way. So in that way you can say that diverse linguistics, which you said that different languages or different language situations, different cultural settings, those are if you are aware about it, then you will not destroy the environment, you will not harm the environment. But as you said in the previous discussion, not previous discussion, sometime before, that you said the outsider will not adhere those rules because he's unaware.
True.
But once you make it very very common or very in, it should be in everybody's talking way. It should
Yes.
be in the everybody's communication. It should be everybody's conversation. Then people will be aware, and then based on that, you can say that yeah, it it can go on the global discourse.
That is right. So we
But
have
it
to,
should be used in a day-to-day life
yes.
routine. It
So,
should be in a routine.
yes, so it has to be incorporated in our life ways to have like not just our languages, but maybe a friendship or a harmony between languages all over the world, which the global platforms are allowing us to do, to have those in those information within our reach. And we can also through books, through stories, through I had a like a chance to read a story which is something known as braiding sweetgrass. I have it the book with me right now here, which I cannot pull due to it's a bit far off.
It's okay.
Braiding sweetgrass. So braiding sweetgrass is something on Native American plant, which was like something a story on the uh, how the planet of Earth came into being. So it was maybe on back of a turtle, someone from the lady from the skies. She came down to the earth, and on back of a turtle, she created a living space, and she spread the seeds of this sweet grass, which has a very nice the smell. The plant still exists. So I related that to our own stories in like Hindu culture. There is also stories of us living on the earth being balanced on top of Sheshnag, which is like a five-headed
Yes, yes,
snake,
yes, yes.
or maybe a turtle as well. So those stories are somehow, when you go into the deeper, go beyond the languages and come to the translations, are somehow transcends boundaries. So
Yes,
using those stories of conservation and ways of living incorporated within our lives, we can make, I think, much of a difference in the coming future when we
sure.
realize their importance.
True,
Now,
true.
as we are coming to the close of the session, I will just quickly ask a couple of more questions if you have.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Um, the last two questions that I have for you is, um, how can socio-linguistic research aid in engaging communities more effectively in climate action and sustainable development initiatives? Do you have some
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah. Social linguistics is the study about society and language, how society per- and the language work together, right? So, and who brings you together? For an example, if I say that if we are standing in a crowd, if you find three or four Bangla speaker and I find three, four Haruti speakers,
Mm.
all of a sudden or automatically we'll just go there and we'll start talking to them, or maybe not a language, but if you came to know that or you come to know that the people belong to Patna and those people belong to Kota, so
So
what
you,
we will do, definitely we'll go and we'll try to interact with them, with communicate with them. Similarly it happens, right? Social linguistic research plays crucial role to make us understand how the society and language is being performed there, how they are working in the society, and how people changes as per their need. Right. When you are talking to your workplace colleague, you will be having a different style. When you are talking to your parents, you will be having a different style. When you are talking to your friends, you will be having a different style. So these
definitely.
kind of variations, these kind of variations are there in society, and we see each and every single day. But in three style or four styles, if we start talking about climate actions or climate things, it can definitely it will enhance our knowledge, and it will give us more awareness about the society that can be very very um, uh, helpful to sustainable development initiatives, because these kind of initiatives are very very important, right? When you start talking about, maybe people like for a moment or may not like, but again you will start, definitely they will start liking it slowly slowly gradually gradually, and then that those initiatives means like, if I'm talking to you, I'm talking about don't do this because you are harming the climate.
Yes.
So the way we are communicating in the particular society, that
That's,
matters a lot.
yes.
If I shout on someone ki, hey, what are you doing, he will not understand. But if I start saying in a different way, in a assertive communication, मुझे तो ये नहीं करना है, I should not do this, then he will feel something. So society works in a different way, and they have a different aspects, and they have a different languages. So based on that, yes, these kind of initiatives we should take, that we should make someone understand for sustainable development course, that we should try to make them understand in their own language, which makes more impact.
True.
English will not make more impact in Rajasthan or Patna, but the local language will make more impact in the everybody's cognitive ability.
That is very interesting that you said that it makes sense, especially for now that I'm thinking for climate action strategies also. It should not just be the this thought came to mind. It should not just be the science experts, climate experts, water, or maybe policy experts, economics experts on economy, but there also should be an expert for languages, not just for translating the
Yeah,
narrative or plans into this, but to tell them exactly how you need to convey your message. Because there are in different, in our country, like India being a vast country, the language how it is said is very different from part to part. Something which is very welcoming in one part of the country or the world might be very rude in other.
sure.
So local language experts or language experts in general need to be present in the teams of these climate action plans or strategies or policies to make it more.
Yeah, basically, when you are making your society or your community to understand something, then you have to think about their common story
Hmm.
because they remember it and they will recall it again.
Hmm.
But if you are talking about a tsunami, the people do not know about tsunami. They never faced, they never had any experience
Hmm.
of the sufferers. They will not understand it.
That is true. And also saying means like talking about that tsunami is a Japanese term because that is happens most in Japan, and it is not something that ever was faced maybe in once in a blue moon in India
Yeah,
and other places. And but we have adapted that term because that is
yeah.
how they say it. But
The,
maybe that is more scary for Japanese when that term comes into mind than for us because we are not really close to that in a
yeah,
language perspective. So, with that, I would like you to ask one last question, if time permits. That
yeah, please, please.
could the preservation and promotion of language diversity be considered, which we already understand, an important tool in climate change adaptation efforts? I say this because still there is a big sort of a gap between scientists and maybe people who are very specific into the field, not considering languages or, social sciences, they do consider, but languages, the incorporation as a serious subject or something we can discuss on. So maybe if someone even on the internet where the when the shows go live, they see that we're talking to a language expert, many people will think that why is that relevant to a talk on Earth Day or climate action? So how can these preservation and promotion of language diversity be an important tool? Means as an
Okay.
expert, I would like you to
Yeah,
answer that.
actually, I just want to ask you how we are doing this dialogue,
Hmm.
how we are doing
Through
with the
language.
help of
Speech.
language.
Yeah, through
You
speech.
are in a different part of the India, I'm a different part of the India through speech, right? So, language, as I said at the beginning, everybody is not, equipped with the standard language,
True.
right? Most of the people in Indian scenario, I'm just talking about in Indian scenario, most of the people are equipped with their mother tongue, right? And they may be bilingual, maybe mother tongue and Hindi. So if I say that Hindi is the last language for most of the people, right,
In India.
in
Yes.
India, and if you are not able to preserve your mother tongue, then you will not be able to preserve Hindi,
True.
right? And if you are not able to preserve your mother tongue, you will not be uh, able to transfer your ancestral or forefathers stories, brave stories, or maybe the suffering stories, or their survival or success stories. So many stories are there, so many experience they have lived. They will share with it through language, right?
True.
So if you are just sharing every single thing with the language, it means being a okay. Yes. sharing with the language, and now you are the expert of, or you are the social scientist, sorry, environmental scientist, but still you are using a language.
True.
If you are not using it for in an appropriate manner, your
Mm,
message will not be delivered.
mm,
Or if you are using such a language which cannot be understood by other people,
mm.
then no use of your message.
That is also
In
correct.
yeah, then there is a no use of your message. So language is very, very important, because the another reason it is that I have said at the very beginning, that if you are not using some local phrases or idioms in your report, then they will say, okay, they are talking about some other part, not they are not talking about my society. But when you are talking about their society and you are not using their idioms and phrases, because their idioms, their indigenous languages idioms connects them with
Mm,
your policy, with your concept, with your innovation, with your developments. If you are just trying to share your developments, innovations, or your study for a particular society, or maybe let's not a particular society, but for a India. But India has a diverse, country which has a different languages. But
how you
when
put
you are using a Hindi phrase, South Indian people would not be able to understand it, because they have a different script, right? Or maybe North Indian people will not be able to understand because they have a different script. So, but to connect with them, we have to have their own language,
mm,
because language makes you connect with everything: your culture, your food, your lifestyle, your society, your environment, your demographic situation, your geographic situation. Basically, language is something which connects, or human being connects with that. So in that way, I would say keep preserving or promotion of a language can be done through every discipline, not the environmental science, but every discipline. Because whatever the development you people are doing with the hard work, you are trying to communicate through language. If you are documenting it, you are doing it through the language. So language plays crucial role in every discipline. I'm not saying in the climate communication or climate, environmental science, or maybe another. Whatever you are doing, you are just trying to communicate through language.
true.
So preserving language, promotion, promoting a language, you are promoting your own work as well. Your your you know your innovations, your work. Though we write research paper in English, but everybody cannot understand that.
That is correct.
So, but if I'm writing that research paper in my language, everybody wants to know about their language. Ki, oh, what happens in, and what is having, what is Haruti is having. Everybody, maybe students, maybe school students would like to know, okay, my language has this kind of features, my language have this kind of features, and Hindi does not have this. Hindi, how we are different from Hindi, that's why we are speaking. So we are just trying to we always try to uh, promote and preserve, but yes, not considering language important in any other disciplines, this would not be this would be very, 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 very difficult situations, because language is the tool which helps you to connect with the society.
That is
So
correct.
if you want to connect with the society and you want to showcase your work, your innovation, your uh, improvements, developments, then you have to use their
Mm,
language and you have to accept it. So
true.
acceptance is a most important thing in
Mm.
every discipline.
So, to sum up our conversation today, what we understood is languages act as a conduit, as a backbone to bring
Yes.
information over different places, different generations, different countries, transcend boundaries, and also it is very important to have a synergistic approach to include endangered and all other languages that are present for not only for cultural survival but for the preservation of climate and for climate adaptation strategies and preservation of the
Yeah,
environment.
policy making as well.
Yes. With those words, I thank you, Dr. Gulab Chand, for being
Thank you,
a
Pauline.
here today. Thank you so much.
Yeah.